The Great Hall of Eos Prime was the largest structure ever built in space. It floated between three stars, as a monument to cooperation between species who had learned to put aside their differences for the greater good, or so they claimed. Ambassador Lee Yuna had stopped believing that story a long time ago. She stood at the human delegations table, the smallest table in the chamber, positioned at the very edge where the light barely reached. Around her, representatives of 11 alien species sat in comfortable silence. They had already made their decision. This meeting was just a performance. High Arbiter Volan rose from his elevated platform at the center of the room. He was ancient, even by the standards of the Neth, a species that measured their lives in thousands of years. His skin was gray like stone, and his eyes held the cold patience of someone who had watched empires rise and fall like waves on a beach. "We gather today to vote on the Territorial Realignment Act," Volan announced. His voice was soft but carried perfectly through the chamber. "The proposal is simple. 3 human colonies on the frontier will be transferred to Neth and Calorie administration. This will bring stability to a troubled region." Una felt Admiral Parkte shift beside her. The old soldier had commanded Earth's diplomatic fleet for 30 years. He had fought alongside these species against the Keth invasion. He had buried friends on foreign worlds for the sake of this alliance. Now he sat in silence, his face like carved wood showing nothing. "The chair recognizes the human delegation," Volan said, gesturing toward Una with one long finger. She stood. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. Some looked curious. Most looked bored. A few, she noticed, could not hide their satisfaction. "Thank you, High Arbiter," Una kept her voice steady. "I wish to present evidence before the vote." She touched a control on her table, and images appeared in the air above her. A city on a green world, buildings rising toward a purple sky, children playing in a park, farmers working fields of golden grain. "Ah! This is New Busan," she said. "Population 2.3 million. The colony was founded 62 years ago by settlers from Earth. They built this city with their own hands. They turned a barren rock into a living world." She changed the image. Another city, smaller but just as beautiful. "This is Haven's Rest. Population 800,000. Many of the people who live here are descendants of soldiers who fought in the Keth incursion. They were promised land in exchange for their service. They earned it with their blood." A third image? A world of islands and blue seas. And this is Jeju Nova. Population 1.4 million. The first human colony established after we joined the Concord. A symbol of our commitment to this alliance. Una let the images fade. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative in turn. "These are not empty territories," she said. "They are homes. They are schools and hospitals and temples. They are generations of human lives, human dreams, human futures. And you want to take them away because it would be convenient." The Kalori representative made a sound that might have been laughter. The Kalori were tall and thin, with scales that shifted color with their moods. Right now, his scales were bright orange. Amusement. "The human speaks of dreams," he said. "But the Concord must deal in reality. Those worlds sit on valuable shipping lanes. Human administration has proven ... inadequate. Inadequate." Yuna's voice sharpened. "Our crime rates are lower than yours. Our trade output has increased every year. We have never violated a single Concord regulation." "And yet," Volan interrupted gently, "the Neth and Kalori empires have expressed concerns. They have asked for this realignment. The Concord exists to address such concerns." Una stared at him. "The Concord exists to protect all its members. Or have you forgotten what we sacrificed 15 years ago?" The chamber went quiet. Everyone remembered the Keth incursion. The Keth had come from beyond known space, a swarm of warships that consumed everything in their path. 3 species had been completely destroyed before the Concord finally organized a defense, and it was humanity. The youngest member, who had turned the tide. Human ships had held the line at the Battle of Crimson Nebula, while the elder species retreated to regroup. 40,000 human soldiers had died in a single day. They had bought the Concorde time to survive. "We remember your contributions," Volan said smoothly. "They have been noted in the historical records. But the past cannot dictate the present. The galaxy changes. We must change with it." Yuna understood then. There would be no justice here. There had never been any intention of justice. Humanity was useful when they needed soldiers to die. Now that the crisis had passed, they were just another young species to be managed. "I call for the vote," the Kalori representative said eagerly. One by one, the species voted. The Neth voted yes. The Kalori voted yes. The Vorin, a quiet species of four-armed beings, voted yes after a long hesitation. The Tessic, who looked like living shadows, voted yes. Around the chamber, hands and tentacles and other appendages rose in agreement. 11 votes in favor. 1 vote against. "The motion passes," Volan announced. "Human colonies designated New Busan, Haven's Rest, and Jeju Nova will be transferred to Joint Neth Kalori Administration within 90 standard days. The human delegation has our thanks for their understanding." Yuna did not move. She stood perfectly still while the chamber buzzed with quiet conversation. She could feel Admiral Park Tae watching her, waiting to see what she would do. "Ambassador Lee," Volan said, "do you have any final words?" Yuna looked up at him. Her face was calm. Her eyes were not. "Yes," she said. "I do." She picked up her documents from the table. She straightened her coat. And then she spoke in a voice that carried to every corner of that great hall. "Earth will remember this day. And so will you." She turned and walked toward the exit. Admiral Park Tae rose and followed her. Behind them, the chamber fell silent. No one had ever walked out of a Concorde session before. At the door, Yuna paused. She looked back at the empty table where she had sat for so many years, fighting for scraps of respect that were never going to come. From this moment, she said, humanity withdraws from Concorde space. Our ships, our trade, our cooperation, all of it. You wanted our chair empty. Now it will be. She walked out into the cold light of the station's corridors. Park Tae fell into step beside her, his old boots clicking against the metal floor. "They will not take this well," he said quietly. "No," Yuna agreed. "They will not." "What happens now?" Yuna thought of Earth. She thought of the secret shipyards hidden in the dark spaces between stars. She thought of the weapons they had never shown to anyone. Now, she said, we remind them why they should have treated us better. Behind them, in the great hall of Eos Prime, 11 species stared at an empty chair and wondered if they had just made a terrible mistake. 6 months passed, and the galaxy grew nervous. At first, the Concorde had laughed at humanity's departure. "Let them sulk," the elder species said. "They would come crawling back soon enough." Young species always did. The universe was too dangerous, too expensive, too complicated to navigate alone. But humanity did not come back. Human ships vanished from the common shipping lanes. Human traders completed their existing contracts and then disappeared. Human colonies closed their ports to outside visitors. The great network of communication that had connected Earth to the rest of the galaxy went quiet. And in that silence, something was building. General Chodai stood in a bunker deep beneath the mountains of Korea. Above him, snow fell on peaks that had watched over his ancestors for thousands of years. Below him, screens glowed with information that would change the course of history. "Show me the fleet," he said. Dr. Kong Hanna touched a control, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. Ships. Hundreds of ships. They were sleek and dark, built for speed and violence. Nothing like the slow, defensive vessels humanity had shown to the Concorde. 412 warships, Hannah said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes shone with pride. The Prometheus fleet. 40 years of secret construction in shipyards hidden beyond the edge of known space. Chodai walked around the hologram, studying each ship class. Carriers that could launch thousands of fighters. Destroyers armed with weapons that could crack planets. And at the center, the crown jewels. 12 dreadnoughts, each one larger than anything the Concorde had ever built. And the Sunfire engine? He asked. Hannah's expression became serious. Operational. We have installed it in the dreadnought Hwarang. One shot can destabilize a star, cause it to expand or collapse. The weapon can destroy entire solar systems. Let us hope we never use it. Agreed. But having it changes the mathematics of war. The Concorde will know that attacking Earth means risking extinction. Chode nodded slowly. He was an old man now, older than he had ever expected to become. He had spent his entire career preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Now that it was here, he felt strangely calm. The door opened, and Ambassador Lee Yuna entered. She had changed since leaving EOS Prime. There was steel in her eyes that had not been there before. The Concorde sent another envoy, she said. They demanded to inspect our military facilities, and we showed them the old orbital dock at Luna Station. The one we decommissioned 20 years ago. They seemed satisfied. Chode allowed himself a small smile. They see what they expect to say. A weak young species with outdated technology. Their arrogance is our greatest weapon, Yuna agreed. But it will not protect us forever. Intelligence reports suggest the Calori are already moving ships toward our frontier colonies. They want to test us, want to humiliate us. Show the galaxy that humanity cannot stand alone. Chode turned to face her fully. Then we will have to disappoint them. Far away, on the frontier of human space, Captain Yoon Jin sat in the command chair of the stealth carrier Gwanggetto. The ship was invisible, wrapped in technology that bent light and radiation around its hull like water flowing around a stone. She was young for a captain, barely 30 years old. But she had earned her position through skill, not politics. Her crew trusted her. More importantly, General Chode trusted her. Captain, her sensor officer, said quietly, "Contact at the edge of the system. Calori signature." Yoon Jin did not react visibly. How many 15 capital ships? Standard invasion fleet. 15 ships. The old mathematics said that humanity would need 60 ships to match that force. Capital ships were expensive, and the Concorde had never allowed humanity to build many. But the old mathematics were wrong. Maintain silence, Yoon Jin ordered. Observe and record. Do not engage unless they threaten civilian targets. Her crew obeyed without question. They had trained for this moment for years. They knew what the Gwanggetto could do. The Calori fleet moved slowly through the system, scanning everything. They were looking for human defenses, expecting to find old stations and outdated patrol ships. They found nothing. On the bridge of the Calori flagship, Commander Vel studied his screens with growing frustration. Where are their forces? Unknown, Commander, his officer replied. Perhaps they have abandoned the system. Cowards. Vel's scales flickered with contempt. Humans are always cowards. They talk bravely, but run when facing real power. He did not know that 6 human warships hung in the darkness around him, close enough to see the lights in his windows. He did not know that Captain Yoon Jin was watching every move he made, recording every word he spoke, and he certainly did not know that his entire fleet could be destroyed in minutes. She gave the order. But Yoon Jin did not give that order. Not yet. Her instructions were clear. Wait for them to make the first move. Let them be the aggressors. Let the galaxy see who started the war. Back on Earth, Chode stood before the United Council. The leaders of humanity's government sat in a circle around him, their faces grave. We have confirmation, he said. The Kalor fleet will enter the new Busan system within 48 hours. They intend to begin forced evacuation of the colony. Council Chairman Oh-sung leaned forward. He was an old man, older even than Chode, with white hair and eyes that had seen too much. And our response? We defend our people. With everything we have, this will mean war with the Concorde. The Concorde declared war on us the moment they voted to steal our worlds. We are simply choosing to fight back. Silence filled the chamber. Every person in that room understood what was about to happen. 80 years of peace were ending. The galaxy would never be the same. Chairman Oh-sung stood slowly. Then may our ancestors guide us, and may our children forgive us. He turned to face Chode directly. You have your authorization, General? Protect our people. Teach the galaxy that humanity is not a species to be dismissed. It was the old style, from the time before humanity reached the stars. A gesture of respect, of duty, of sacrifice. It will be done, he said. That night, across human space, a signal went out. It was encrypted with codes that no alien species could break. It was transmitted through channels that no one outside Earth knew existed. The signal reached Captain Yoon Jin on the Gwanggaeto. It reached Admiral Park Tae on his flagship above Earth. It reached every ship, every station. Every military installation that humanity had built in secret over 4 decades of patient preparation. The signal was simple. 3 words. Prometheus is awake. And in the darkness between the stars, 400 ships began to move. The Kalori fleet entered the new Busan system, like conquerors arriving at a defeated city. Commander Vel stood on his bridge, with his arms crossed, watching the blue-green world grow larger on his screens. This would be easy. A young colony barely defended, filled with soft humans who would surrender at the first sign of force. Begin broadcast, he ordered. Inform the colonists that they have 12 hours to begin evacuation. Those who cooperate will be treated fairly. Those who resist will be removed by force. His communications officer obeyed, sending the message across all frequencies. Vel imagined the panic spreading through the human cities below. He imagined mothers gathering their children, fathers looking at homes they would never see again. The thought pleased him. On the surface of New Busan, Governor Baek Su listened to the broadcast in her office. She was 73 years old, with gray hair and hands that had spent a lifetime building. She had arrived on this world as a young engineer, had helped construct the first buildings, had raised her children here and buried her husband here. Her aide rushed in, face pale with fear. Governor, the Kalori demand our surrender. What do we do? Baek Su looked out her window at the city she had helped create. The streets were full of people, but they were not running. They were looking up at the sky, waiting to see what would happen. We do nothing, she said calmly. We wait, but the fleet is about to have a very bad day. In orbit, Commander Vel grew impatient. The 12 hours had passed, and the humans had not responded. No evacuation ships had launched. No surrender had been offered. Stubborn creatures, he muttered. Very well, deploy landing forces. We will remove them ourselves. His ships began to move into lower orbit, preparing for planetary assault. Transport vessels filled with Kalori soldiers launched from the carrier bays. On his bridge, officers called out coordinates and confirmed targets. No one noticed the 6 shadows that begun to move behind them. Captain Yoon Jin watched the Kalori fleet from the bridge of the Gwanggaeto. Her ship was invisible, silent, deadly. Around her, 5 sister vessels held position, waiting for her command. Targets locked, her weapons officer reported. All batteries ready. Yoon Jin opened a communication channel. Her voice would reach every ship in the system, Kalori and human alike. Kalori fleet. This is Captain Yoon Jin of the United Earth Federation ship Gwanggaeto. You have entered sovereign human territory. You have ignored our warnings. You have threatened our civilians. On the Kalori flagship, Commander Vel stared at his screens in confusion. The voice was coming from everywhere and nowhere. His sensors showed nothing but empty space. You have 60 seconds to withdraw, Yoon Jin continued. This is your only warning, Vel laughed out loud. A single human ship hiding somewhere, daring to threaten 15 Kalori warships. The arrogance was almost admirable. Find that ship and destroy it, he ordered. This game has gone on long enough. His fleet began scanning, searching for the source of the transmission. 30 seconds passed. 40, 59 seconds. Yoon Jin spoke again. Time is up. The Gwanggaeto decloaked directly behind the Kalori flagship. For one frozen moment, Vel saw it on his screens, a ship unlike anything he had ever seen, dark and angular, covered in weapons that glowed with terrible light. Then everything became fire. The Gwanggaeto's main batteries fired first. punching through the flagship's shields like they were made of paper. Rail accelerators launched projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light, tearing through armor that was supposed to be impenetrable. Plasma lances cut the ship in half. Commander Vell did not even have time to give an order. One moment he was standing on his bridge, secure in his superiority. The next moment, he was dead, his ship breaking apart around him. The other cavalry vessels tried to respond. They turned their weapons toward the attackers, fired everything they had. But their targeting systems were blind, jammed by technology they did not understand. Their shots went wide, hitting nothing but empty space, and they were not facing one ship. They were facing 6. The human carriers had decloaked in a perfect formation, surrounding the cavalry fleet. Fighters launched from their bays thousands of small craft that swarmed like angry insects. The cavalry ships, designed to fight other capital vessels, had no defense against such numbers. Yunjin watched the battle unfold on her screens. It was not really a battle. It was an execution. "Target the engines first," she ordered. "I want prisoners if possible." Her crew obeyed, but there were few prisoners to take. The cavalry fought to the death, too proud to surrender, too shocked to retreat. One by one, their ships went dark. 12 minutes after the first shot was fired, it was over. 15 cavalry capital ships had been reduced to scattered debris. Not a single human vessel had been damaged. On the surface of New Busan, Governor Bixu watched the flashes of light in the sky. Her aide stood beside her, tears streaming down his face. "They did it," he whispered. "They actually did it," Bixu nodded slowly. "Did you think they would not?" I did not know. No one told us about these ships, these weapons. Some secrets must be kept until they are needed." She turned away from the window. "Now, we have work to do. There will be wounded in orbit. Prepare medical teams." In space, Yunjin opened a channel that would reach every corner of T. He galaxied. Every species that could receive a transmission would hear her words. "This is Captain Yunjin of the United Earth Federation. To all members of the Galactic Concord, the cavalry fleet that entered human space has been destroyed. They came to steal our homes. They will not be leaving. This was your warning. There will not be another. Any ship that enters human territory without permission will be treated as an enemy. Any species that threatens human lives will face the full force of human response. We did not want this war, but we will not run from it. We will not hide, and we will not lose. To the civilians of the Concord species, we have no quarrel with you. This fight is with your leaders, who thought they could take what was ours without consequence. To those leaders, remember this day. Remember the price of your arrogance. Ask yourselves if the next battle is worth fighting." She closed the channel. On her bridge, her crew sat in stunned silence. They had trained for this moment, but training was not the same as reality. They had just killed thousands of enemy soldiers. It started a war that would reshape the galaxy. "Captain," her first officer said quietly, "what happens now?" Yunjin looked at the debris field that had once been an invasion fleet. Whoa, well with it. I will with me mode. I will I row. In that wreckage were beings who had families, who had dreams, who had believed they were doing the right thing. War was ugly. She had always known that. Sometimes ugly things were necessary. Now, she said, we wait. Concord will respond. When they do, we will be ready. On Eos Prime, the news arrived like a bomb. High Arbiter Volan stood in his private chambers, staring at the reports that could not possibly be true. 15 ships destroyed in 12 minutes. Weapons technology that should not exist. a fleet that had been built in secret for decades. His aide entered nervously. "High Arbiter, the Council demands an emergency session. The Kalori are calling for immediate retaliation." Volan did not answer. He was remembering Ambassador Lee Yuna's face as she walked out of the chamber. The calm in her eyes, the certainty in her voice. Earth will remember this day. So will you. He had thought she was making an empty threat. The words of a weak species trying to preserve their dignity. He had been wrong. "High Arbiter," his aide prompted. Volan turned slowly. For the first time in centuries, he felt something cold spreading through his ancient bones. "Fear. Summon the council," he said. "We have much to discuss." Ambassador Lee Yuna returned to Eos Prime 3 weeks after the battle. She came alone, in a small diplomatic shuttle, without escort or protection. Some called her brave, others called her foolish. She knew exactly what she was doing. The Great Hall was different this time. Comfortable silence was gone, replaced by tension that crackled like electricity. Representatives of 11 species watched her enter, their eyes filled with emotions that ranged from fear to hatred to something that might have been respect. High Arbiter Volan sat on his elevated platform, but he seemed smaller somehow. The certainty that had always surrounded him like armor had cracked. Yuna walked to the center of the chamber. Not to the human delegation's table at the edge, but to the very heart of the room, where no junior species had ever stood before. "You were not invited to speak," the Kalori representative snarled. His scales were dark red now, the color of rage. "You are a war criminal. You should be executed, not heard." Yuna looked at him without expression. "Your fleet entered our space. Your soldiers threatened our civilians. We defended ourselves. If that makes me a criminal, then I accept the title." 15,000 Kalori died. And how many humans would have died if we had surrendered? How many of our children would have been forced from their homes? Yuna's voice remained calm, but there was iron beneath the words. "You do not get to invade someone's world and then complain when they fight back." Volan raised his hand for silence.
"Ambassador Lee, you were granted permission to return for one purpose, to discuss terms of peace. The Concord has no interest in prolonging this conflict."
Yuna smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Terms of peace? I am not here to negotiate. I am here to deliver humanity's position." She reached into her coat and produced a small device. When she activated it, text appeared in the air above her head, visible to everyone in the chamber. "This is the Declaration of Human Sovereignty," she said. "It has been ratified by the United Earth Council, signed by every human colony, and broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Its contents are simple." She began to read, her voice carrying through the sudden silence. "For 80 years, humanity served as a member of the Galactic Concord. We came in good faith, seeking friendship and cooperation. We honored every treaty. We fought in every war the Concord asked us to fight. We buried our dead beside yours and called your enemies our enemies. And what did we receive in return? Contempt, disrespect. The theft of worlds our people built with their own hands. We asked for fairness. We were given excuses. We asked for justice. We were given votes that were decided before they began. We asked for respect. We were told to know our place. So here is our answer. We reject your concord. We reject your laws that protect the powerful and punish the weak. We reject the idea that age grants wisdom or that power grants righteousness. As of this moment, the United Earth Federation is at war with any species that threatens human soil, human lives, or human sovereignty. We do not seek your destruction. We do not hunger for your worlds or your resources. We want only what was. Always ours, the right to exist on our own terms, to build our own future, to raise our children without fear. Deny us this, and we will fight. With every ship we have built, with every weapon we have created, with every breath in our bodies and every beat of our hearts, you wanted humanity's chair empty. Now you will learn what it means to face us standing." Yuna lowered the device. The declaration continued to glow above her head, its words burning into the memory of everyone present. The Kalori representative rose to his feet. "This is madness. You cannot stand against the entire Concord." "We will crush you. You are welcome to try," Yuna replied. But you should know something first. She touched her device again. New images appeared. Ships, weapons, installations that no one outside humanity had ever seen. This is the Prometheus fleet. 400 warships, each one more advanced than anything the Concorde possesses. We built them in secret over 40 years, waiting for the day when they would be needed. The images changed, showing a massive vessel unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. And this is the Warong. Our first Dreadnought-class vessel carries a weapon called the Sunfire Engine. One shot can destabilize a star, causing it to expand or collapse. We can destroy entire solar systems. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions, demands, threats. The Kalari screamed for war. Vorin backed away from their table, their forearms raised in gestures of surrender. The Tessek, those living shadows, began to fade from view entirely. Only Volin remained still. He stared at Yuna with ancient eyes that had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. "You would destroy stars?" he asked quietly, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Yuna met his gaze without flinching. "We would do whatever is necessary to protect our people, but we do not want to. We have never wanted to. All we ever asked for was to be treated as equals. You refused, and now you have a choice. Accept that humanity is no longer a junior species to be managed. Recognize our sovereignty. Leave our worlds alone. If you do these things, there will be peace, and if we do not..." Yuna was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was soft but carried to every corner of the chamber. "Then I suggest you look at what remains of the Kalari fleet and imagine what we could do if we stopped holding back." She turned and walked toward the exit. This time, no one tried to stop her. No one spoke. The chamber was frozen, trapped between rage and fear. At the door, Yuna paused. She looked back at the assembled representatives, at the species that had dismissed her people for 8 decades. "One more thing," she said. "I know some of you are thinking about forming an alliance against us, a united fleet to crush the human threat once and for all." She smiled, and for the first time, there was genuine emotion in it, something cold and dangerous. "Please try. We have been preparing for that scenario for a very long time." She walked out. The door closed behind her with a sound like a coffin sealing shut. In the chaos that followed, alliances shattered. The Vorin announced that they were withdrawing from any military action against humanity. The Tessek declared neutrality and refused to participate in further discussions. Even the Nethvalin's own species began to argue among themselves about the wisdom of continuing this conflict. Only the Kalari remained committed to war. Her pride had been wounded too deeply. They would fight, even if they had to fight alone. High Arbiter Volin sat on his platform and watched his Concorde begin to fall apart. 80 years of careful diplomacy, of balanced power, of controlled peace, crumbling in a single day. A young species. That was what they had called humanity. A young species that needed guidance, that needed to learn its place. They had been wrong. Humanity was not young. Humanity was patient. And patience, Volin was learning, could be more dangerous than any weapon. He thought of the Sunfire Engine, of stars dying at the touch of a button, of worlds vanishing into nuclear fire. He thought of the 400 ships hiding in the darkness between stars, waiting for the order to attack. And he wondered, for the first time in his long life, if the Concorde had finally met a species it could not control. The answer, he suspected, was yes, and that answer terrified him more than anything he had ever known. 1 year of war changed everything. General Chode stood in his command center beneath the Korean mountains. Watching the galaxy reshape itself on his screens, red markers showed human positions spreading outward like a tide. Blue markers showed enemy forces retreating, collapsing, surrendering. It was not the war anyone had expected. Humanity did not burn worlds. They did not massacre civilians. They did not seek revenge for 80 years of insults and injustice. Instead, they fought with surgical precision, targeting military installations, shipyards, weapons factories. They crippled the Kalari war machine without touching a single Kalari city. And somehow, that restraint was more terrifying than any atrocity could have been. Captain Yoonjin, had become a legend. Her task force had pushed deep into Calori space, liberating the 3 disputed colonies and then continuing onward. She had destroyed 100 enemy ships, but she had also allowed dozens of damaged vessels to limp home, their crews alive to tell stories of the human captain who could have killed them, but chose not to. Why spare them? Her first officer had asked after one such battle. Yunjin had watched the crippled ships retreat into the darkness. Because mercy is a choice, and I want them to know that we are choosing it. I want them to understand that we could destroy them completely, but we are better than that. The stories spread. Calori soldiers began to surrender rather than fight. Some even defected, offering information in exchange for protection. The Great Calori Empire, which had dominated the eastern quadrant for 10,000 years, was collapsing from within. But the true turning point came when Yunjin's fleet appeared in orbit above Nethera. Homeworld of the Neth, High Arbiter Volin received the news in his chambers. His aide's hands trembled as he delivered the report. 30 human warships in orbit, High Arbiter, including the dreadnought Warang. Volin closed his eyes. The Sunfire engine, the weapon that could kill stars. It hung above his world like a sword waiting to fall. What are their demands? They have made none. Captain Yunjin is broadcasting on an open channel. She says she wishes to speak with you directly. Volin rose slowly. His ancient body ached, but his mind was sharp. He knew what this was. This was the moment when everything would be decided. He walked to his communication center and opened a channel. Yunjin's face appeared before him, young and calm and utterly without fear. High Arbiter Volin, she said. I hope this message finds you well. You have brought warships to my homeworld, Volin replied. I doubt you came to check on my health. No. I came to offer you a choice. A choice. Volin almost laughed. With that weapon hanging above my cities, what choice do I have? Yunjin's expression did not change. You have the same choice humanity always offered the Concord. The choice to treat us as equals. The choice to recognize that young does not mean weak. The choice to build something better than what came before. And if I refuse, then I leave. I take my ships and my weapons, and I go home. And the war continues until there is nothing left of the Concord worth saving. Volin stared at her. You would not fire? You would not destroy Nethera and end this war in a single stroke? I could, Yunjin admitted. I have the power. But power without restraint is just brutality. We are not fighting this war to become monsters. We are fighting it to prove that we deserve better than what you gave us. She leaned forward slightly, her eyes holding his across the light years between them. We could glass this world, High Arbiter. Every city, every temple, every living thing on its surface. We could do it in an hour, and no force in the galaxy could stop us. But we choose not to. We choose mercy. We choose hope. Remember that when you decide what kind of peace you want to make. The channel closed. Volin stood alone in the silence, thinking about choices and consequences and the strange courage of a species that had been underestimated for far too long. 3 days later, he requested a meeting with Ambassador Li Yuna. They met on a dead moon between their territories. A place with no strategic value, no witnesses, no weapons. Just 2 beings in a small room, trying to find a way forward. Volin looked older than Yuna remembered. The war had taken something from him, some essential fire that had burned for thousands of years. We underestimated you, he said finally. We saw a young species and assumed you were weak. We saw patience and assumed it was submission. Yuna nodded slowly. You saw what you wanted to see, yes, and now I see clearly. He straightened, gathering the remnants of his dignity. What are your terms? The dissolution of the Concord as it currently exists. No more hierarchy based on age. No more votes weighted by species. A new coalition where all members, young and old, have equal voice. That will not be easy. Many species have grown comfortable with the old ways, and they will have to grow uncomfortable. Change is never easy. But it is necessary. Volin was quiet for a long moment. Humanity could rule the galaxy now. You have the power. Why do you not use it? Yuna considered the question carefully. Because we remember what it felt like to be powerless, to be dismissed and ignored and treated as less than what we were. We will not do that to others, not even to those who did it to us. Mercy again. Justice. There is a difference. Volan reached into his robes and produced a small document, ancient paper covered in flowing script. The original charter of the Galactic Concord, signed 10,000 years ago by the founding species. I helped write this, he said softly. I was young then, full of hope for what we could build together. Somewhere along the way, we forgot what that hope meant. He handed the document to Yuna. Perhaps it is time for someone else to carry it forward. Yuna took the paper carefully, feeling the weight of history in her hands. We will try to do better. I believe you will. He signed the peace treaty that afternoon. The war was over. 1 month later on Earth, Admiral Park Tay walked through a memorial garden in Seoul. Cherry blossoms drifted on a gentle breeze, pink and white petals falling like snow. Children played nearby, their laughter bright in the spring air. Governor Biksu sat on a bench beneath an old tree, watching the children with a peaceful expression. She was older now, her hair completely white. But her eyes still held the strength that had kept New Busan standing when the cavalry came. Park Tay sat beside her. The news came this morning. The new coalition held its first session. Equal votes for all species. Ambassador Lee Yuna was elected to lead the opening ceremony. Good, Biksu smiled softly. She earned it. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the children and the wind and the distant hum of ships passing overhead. Human ships now patrolled freely among the stars, respected and feared in equal measure. Do you think they have truly learned? Biksu asked. The Concord species? Do you think they understand what they did wrong? Park Tay considered the question carefully. He was an old man now, finally at peace after a lifetime of preparing for war. He had seen the best and worst of what sentient beings could do to each other. Perhaps not all of them, he admitted. Some will still believe they were right. Some will nurse their pride and wait for a chance to take revenge. That is the nature of things. And if they try again? If they forget? Park Tay watched the sky where human ships moved like stars against the blue. Somewhere up there, Captain Yoon-jin was still patrolling, still watching, still ready. Then we will remind them, he said quietly. We have learned patience. We have learned to wait. And we have learned that mercy is a choice that can be revoked. He looked at the children playing in the garden, the future of humanity running and laughing without fear. But I hope it never comes to that. I hope they look at what we built, at what we could have destroyed but chose to preserve, and they understand. Not because they fear us, but because they finally see us as we truly are. What are we? Park Tay smiled, old eyes crinkling with something that might have been pride. We are humanity. We are patient and fierce and merciful and terrible. We are everything they never expected, and we are here to stay. Above them, the cherry blossoms continued to fall, gentle and beautiful, while among the stars, a new age was beginning. An age where humanity would no longer sit at the edge of the table, but at its very heart, an age they had earned. One battle and one choice at a time, and somewhere in the galaxy. In council chambers and war rooms and quiet homes, the other species of the cosmos looked at their human neighbors and finally understood. The truth that had been there all along, patience was not weakness, mercy was not surrender, and humanity was never, ever going to be dismissed again?